Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Gato and I am so happy to be back on the Syberia Designs YouTube channel today with this fun die cut card. I'm mostly using dies for this one, only the sentiment is stamped, but you can absolutely use a die cut sentiment as well. I'm going to start with the background. I die cut all of my pieces first, and when I was starting to assemble everything, it just made sense to start with the background. Now I'm using the Floral Lattice cover die, and I stacked 2 layers of white cardstock together already, and the top layer is going to be this nice light blue cardstock. I'm going to put glue on there, just some liquid adhesive. I much prefer to work with liquid adhesive all the time, but especially for something like this, it's perfect because you can shift it around if you need to. I am going to offset that slightly over the white cardstock, so there's just a little bit of white peeking through, and that's going to make a little bit more sense in a second. Now I am going to trim all the excess white off. So this is still going to be A2 size. It's just because I offset it that it's just a little bit slightly larger. So I cut that off, and I am going to put a piece of that same light blue cardstock on my top folding white note card. So it's mostly going to be a blue background, just some of that white from that lattice cover die is going to peek through. It's going to create a lot of texture and depth because you have almost that shadow layer of the white cardstock behind it. And as you can see, I even die cut one of those white layers from a scrap piece of packaging. It was just some packaging from other dies or whatever it was. I'm not entirely sure anymore. And then I can start building the rest of my card. Now, the idea for this was just having a band of vines or greenery and some flowers traveling up that floral lattice. So I am going to, I have die cut a bunch of the foliage pieces from that classic foliage die set. It is probably my favorite die set from Syberia Designs because foliage is just... It's one of those things I could use on every single card, and I honestly struggle to use anything else these days. So I think it's a must-have for your craft room. You can complete a floral card with some foliage, obviously. You can easily use it on its own as well. It's just always good to have a foliage die in your stash. I cut it from 2 shades of green cardstock. Both are very light, and I am just going to tuck those behind each other and create one strip of foliage on my card. Now I am going to speed through this a little bit. It didn't take long. This whole card, apart from doing the die cutting, which was maybe 10 minutes, this whole card took me 30 minutes to make. This is a pretty quick card to put together, so that's what I love about die cut cards. Because once you have all the pieces die cut, you can just play around with it, and usually it goes pretty quickly as well. Once I have all my foliage in place, it's time to add the flowers, and those are from the Fantasy Flowers die set. I die cut all the pieces I needed already. All I have to do is assemble them, but I wanted to add a little bit of shading. And this is one of my favorite things to do when I'm adding shading to dies, even intricate ones. This is not so intricate piece, but I like to put a piece of washi tape, sticky side facing up, on my craft mat. This is really just a piece of white cardstock that I laminated. So it's perfect for ink blending because the ink slides right over it. It's really easy to clean. And I just really, really love that those dies are held in place just with the washi tape. You can use any low-tech tape for this. And I am just going to add a little bit of shading to that die cut. So for the flowers, I usually add some shading at the bottom of the petals here. And I am going to do that with the Sorbet ink from Concord 9th. And then I am going to pink it up a little bit because that Sorbet ink is a little bit more towards the orange side. So I am going to add a little bit more of a bright pink here with the Honeysuckle. And layering up those inks gives me a nice in-between ink color as well. So you don't need all the ink colors, even though I am definitely someone who has full set syndrome. So I won't judge you for buying them all, but sometimes you can get by with a couple colors. These flowers come with two main pieces. So a backing piece where you build everything up on, and then you have that front layer of petals, and you have two pieces for the center as well. In the Fantasy Flower die set, there are two sizes of flowers you can make, a larger one, and this is the smaller one. But this is still pretty large for a card making flower, I think. These are great sizes of flowers. You can really easily fill up a card with them. There are also a bunch of leaves in that die set as well. I didn't use them on this card just because they are quite bulky, and I wanted a very intricate foliage piece on my card. But those are really fun as well. And again, they are quite large, the leaves as well. So it would be really cool to build a background with those too. Now I arranged the flowers. It's really easy to do. When you work with groups of 3, it's usually pretty easy to find a pleasing way to arrange them on your card. So I just tuck them in between the flowers, or between the foliage, and I'm adhering them all with liquid glue. This card is already quite bulky, so I don't need to add foam tape behind them. I am going to add a little bit of foam tape behind the sentiment, which I stamped way in advance with the Spring Garden stamp set, and it also has coordinating dies for all the sentiments, so I used that die set as well. Those will be linked in the description along with all the other products I used today. This is white heat embossed onto black cardstock, and I die-cut it a couple of times and stacked those together. And I am really only using that foam tape on here because I didn't need the extra dimension, but I did want some foam tape to kind of buffer to act as a buffer, because there is such a variation in dimension on this card. The foliage is quite bulky, and there are some really low spots in the background and some pretty high spots. Foam tape is going to even that out a little bit for this sentiment, so that helps. I'm going to finish this off by adding some gold pearls here and there next to that band of foliage, and that is pretty much going to finish this card. I'm just going to glue those on. It's really easy to do with a strong glue. This is Nouveau Deluxe adhesive, and just a jewel picker or a, what else are those called? I forgot the word. But yeah, it's really easy to just arrange them on your card. This is it. I really like how this card turned out, even though I am not usually one to use pastel colors, and that light blue and that light pink was a little bit challenging for me to use. I wanted to add something brighter on there or a little bit darker on there, but I refrained because it is spring and maybe this is the perfect time to use pastel colors. I hope you like this card, and I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to head on over to the description if you want to see any of the products that I used. And don't forget to subscribe to see more of my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.